Perfect.
So, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending wherever you are. My name is Alexander Erceg, and I'm a technical host of this meeting, which is organized by Professors Emeriti Network. And today's topic is longevity, a silver economy is a part of knowledge economy. It's co-chaired by Dr. Boris Cizelj, professor and president of the Knowledge Economy Network, and Professor Emeriti Dr. Joze.Gricar. He's a secretary of Professor Emeriti Network. So, guys, the floor is yours, and I'm here in case of technical issues.
Boris, you are on the move.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I understood somebody else before. Okay, fine. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to share some thoughts on this challenging topic, which I think it's a bit of surprise that such a natural phenomena with these dimensions which are hitting us, it takes so much effort and time to really adjust the life, to adjust the services that societies make available to its members, and to fully understand that this change is something negative, because in many minds, well, silver economy is a nice expression, but people refer to as aging. Yes, aging is, of course, a process, most natural one, but the implications of aging are very different today than just 60, 70 years ago, when people were dying in their late 60s, and now they are dying in their early 90s. That is such a huge change, which of course has implications which we cannot draw from the picture, because we are simply still somehow keeping in our mind the old model of society, where people after 60 have been looked upon as a burden of society, as a cost, because they represent those individuals who are waiting to go. Now we all are aware, we should all be aware, therefore this is not anymore, at least the case, and by not recognizing these different circumstances, we are creating a lot of damage. On one hand, it is unfair to people who are fit and willing and motivated to still work, to push them retirement. This is one of the greatest inflexibilities in most countries around the globe. As I mentioned before, Japan being the only example where decision of retirement is left with the person and the company, and not prescribed by law by the age of 65 or whatever. Secondly, of course, this perception that the seniors, I prefer to call seniors, not elderly, are people who have accumulated wisdom, experience, and knowledge. And I would say that looking at the society, about half of all the wisdom which is there is actually in these generations, because they simply accumulated experience and learned from their experiences. And if this potential is not used, and we are talking about knowledge economies, where knowledge, of course, is absolutely essential, then we are wasting a very, very important resource, which is difficult to justify, definitely. Now, what are we actually doing to adjust and to prevent the continuation of this wrong treatment of the seniors. Definitely, quite a bit is being done by various associations and NGOs and so on. But in the sphere of politics, that is not still sufficiently present. In Slovenia, we even have political parties of pensioners, and one would expect that they would do much more, but unfortunately, they really didn't. Probably because the leaders of the parties have been much more interested in their own position and career than in resolving challenging questions that need to be addressed. So one of the key challenges, in my opinion, is that the general attitude in society about the seniors is changing very, very slowly. And who can do more about this? Well, certainly, I will never forget former Finnish Prime Minister Esko Aho speaking at a conference where he says, if government fails, what comes next is the pressure from below. Good morning. That is absolutely true. And that is, of course, in life always happening, but we sometimes forget. And we complain that, yeah, governments are not doing enough or not doing the right thing. But what are we doing as the citizens, and of course, in this case, as interested citizens, being part of the seniors, part of population? I would say not enough, definitely, because we are the most motivated part of population to bring attention to these issues, propose measures to be taken, and of course, mobilize those who will be willing and ready to do something fair to the seniors, and which is very rational for the society, especially for the knowledge society, where, of course, the wisdom, experience, and knowledge of seniors is an extremely important resource, which is definitely underutilized in most of modern societies. If we just compare and take my own country and then compare it with Finland, for example, because in the Nordic countries, like in many other issues, they have advanced in this area as well. If you look at the share of seniors who are not feeling comfortable, in Slovenia, this is about 80%. And in Finland, only 20%. This proportion of 80 to 20 is speaking so loud. And of course, this is one of those issues that we need to address as part of the seniors' generations, because other parts of society simply are not sharing this experience with us and are not, therefore, sufficiently aware that society is inflicting upon itself damage and is not acting appropriately. Now, of course, a silver economy is a new age, a new step in civilization. And what needs to be done, of course, to address issues of the seniors in knowledge economy are some of the following points. First of all, we need, as I said, ourselves to be more active in addressing these issues and, so to say, making society and, of course, political circles, governments, much more aware of these challenges than they are at the moment. There are practical examples, not very many, but they are around the world, and these can be used much more efficiently to show what can be done. And speaking of knowledge economy, I would just refer to Sweden, where, for example, Sweden was on the innovation list of countries, where 132 countries are listed, have been traditionally on the place 5. And when the Prime Minister decided to create an advisory body to the government specialized on issues of innovation, after that happened, and 3 ministers are part of this advisory body, Sweden has jumped over 3 years from place 5 to place 2. After Switzerland. Switzerland is kind of reserving this leading place for itself, and we all know most of the reasons why this is so. So this is just an example of what can be done with sometimes a very simple and logical step, which can have great impact. Of course, at the same time, it is very important to engage much more the media and, of course, the experts, because they can produce convincing evidence of what is being missed and how and what can be done to engage seniors much more, to allow them to contribute more actively, and, of course, help society to move into the direction of knowledge economy. Colleagues, thank you very much for your attention. I will stop here, but I'll be happy to join in the discussion again. Thank you.
Thank you, Boris. It's my turn now. I would like to refer to some issues in eCollaboration, working together. As Boris mentioned, what can we do together? eCollaboration is based on the intensive use of information technology. It is especially important to retired professors for 2 reasons. 1, it eliminates geographical, organizational, institutional, and professional boundaries that are an obstacle to collaboration. 2, it allows them to retain or establish contact with colleagues all over the world, which would otherwise not be possible due to difficulty and cost of travel, which was less of a problem during their full-time academic roles. There are 3 areas emerging very important in the coming years: climate change, long-lived society, and the use of artificial intelligence. The economy of long-lived society is important for our meeting. In longevity economy, artificial intelligence tools will be very useful, and we can help in promoting the use and show the case how and what can be done. The retired or Emeriti professors can contribute a lot to the development on the silver economy, since they provide a combination of experience, mentorship, strategic insights, and a lifelong commitment to research and education. By involving them, society can better address the needs of an aging population while tapping into their rich intellectual and social capital. Using this meeting, we want to encourage retired professors in general and professors emeriti in particular to engage in the following actions: participation in networks and associations for the exchange of good practices. Opportunities for this could include, for example, preparations of the celebrations of our holiday, the International Day of Older Persons on October 1st next year. Linking websites. The condition for this is in that the organization of retired professors work for the websites that are ready to be connected. with others. Connecting is not technically demanding. The question is whether the organization's leadership wants to connect with others. Opening and using access to free online education. An encouraging example has been set by the Gerontological Society of America, which has opened up free access to its online training events. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Emerita Nina Silverstein. She is with us today. She's from the University of Massachusetts, Boston. She organized the Zoom meeting on October 10th, at which the Society's membership director confirmed the agreement. There are a few questions here. Which organizations are likely to follow this example? How can we spread awareness about this? Using access to information technology. It is, of course, related to universities which are age-friendly. Sorry, but not all universities are age-friendly in that regard. Universities in Europe can take, as an example, the universities in the United States and Canada. Continuous training in the use of information technology. Keeping up with the latest in e-technology is critical. Retirees need to be helped to do this, including retired professors. Professor Herzeg will talk more about that. Being blocked, being kicked out of using technology, university technology, is very damaging to many retired professors. Involvement in actions related to the development of the silver economy in the local environment. There are a few questions here. Does your university have an association of retired or emeriti professors? Are you personally involved in the association? How does this association relate to similar organizations in your city, in your region? Finally, connecting with actions to develop the longevity or silver economy in the cross-border and global environment. Do we know of such organizations' actions in other countries? Here, I would like to repeat what I briefly mentioned before the meeting started, that it's our delight to have the president of the Association of Retired Professors in Canada here with us today. What can we do with the Professors Emeriti Network, our group, using technology and connections we already have established? Are you willing, you personally, willing to report on this at one of the next Zoom meetings of the network? I would like to thank you for the attention and the opportunity to share with you some ideas. Personally, I feel so much can be done. We are sometimes very clumsy, not well organized, not prepared to share what we have, to learn from others, and think of what we could do together. Browsing websites, what some organizations are doing. There is not much evidence what professors are doing, retired professors, what they are doing. They may do a lot, but we do not know about that. How you can help us, how we together can be better at that. Thank you. Now I would like to pass on the word to Luigi. Luigi, microphone.
You're muted, Luigi.
Luigi, I'm muted.
Luigi, you're muted.
Still.
We can't hear you.
Maybe if everybody puts their hands up, and then he'll get the idea that something's going wrong.
And now he's frozen.
Alexander, are you able to unmute him as being the host?
No, I can only ask him to unmute.
Okay.
I can mute, but then I cannot unmute.
Well, maybe Alexander, if you do a mute, that might be equivalent to an unmute.
I don't think the double negation works here.
Professor Lager, can you take the word, and we will invite Luigi Campanella after your presentation. Professor Lager, please.
Sorry, were you asking me to take?
Yes.
Oh,
Are you asking me?
Luigi now has the sound.
You can understand.
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay, Luigi,
You can. It's okay. Yes, you have muted my microphone, so I could change it. Just you. Okay. Anyway, my duty is today to speak about technologies and their role in the development of a silver economy. So technology the technologies surely succeeded in improve the standards of our life. And we that are those who enjoyed these opportunities by technologies, what we have paid for this? We have paid a fee that probably nobody thinks about it. That is globalization. Because globalization has let us lose our personal, national, regional, local, traditional values. Besides this that is called the God globalization, to which all the countries must be weak, because the globalization is a process that you cannot stop. And we have now to think about this, how technologies that are so important, as I said before, for the quality of life, can be used in order that globalization has not its negative aspects, that is cover and forgets some values that are so important for our life, because traditions, history of our countries, our personal culture, our personal feelings are values that we can call immaterial, if you want, but so important. So the bet we have to win is, will the technological advances be able to increase the inclusion capacity of our society so that globalization can only assume its positive value, that is sharing opportunities, sharing knowledge, without forgetting the values that inside each one of us. This is a very important bet. And if you want, Emeriti and retired toward university and research institution is just an aspect exactly of the same. The need of renewing can cover completely the inclusion in respect to persons who have done so much work, so much duties for institutions, is exactly the same question. Is a question of balance between two plats of a balance, where in one plat you put knowledge shared, you put open science, you put help to poor, and on the other you put inclusion, respect of the value of the single person and community. Just you heard I was young when I was just with the degree of chemistry. The value of the culture was effectively a sort, if you want, of respect, something that is over, that you had a progressive, continuous increasing interest for the technological aspects of our society. But at the meantime, what happened? That we
Oops, he's gone.
Yeah. He usually has some issues with the line and the connectivity. But he's back.
Nope.
Luigi, you're somehow muted again. No, it's... Nope.
Yes, now
it's okay.
Now, okay. Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. So I'm going to say, yes, I'm going to finish. I was saying that the last part of our times, the pandemic obliged us, the older persons, become nearer to technologies. Otherwise, we should have the risk to be excluded from society. So this correlation between older age and technology now is seen better because we need these technologies in order to protect our inclusion in the society. We have many technologies so for us essential. We look at telemedicine, we look at the automatic, we look at in technology and information technology, but also to co-housing. Is a technological solution to a problem, that is the solitude. The older person sometimes lives the last part of their life and die alone, without nobody near. So technology assumes a meaning that is over what we generally think. So I think that we, as older persons, as emeriti, as retired, as you want, we must look at technologies with a mixture of gratitude and of prudence. Gratitude because they allow us to be still living part of society. And prudence because they can be the mean, the instrument by which we are excluded because we are unable to speak the same language. If we look at technologies with this feeling, I think we have only great advantages. Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi.
I finished.
Professor Arkel, Walter Arkel, it's your turn now.
Okay. I'm very pleased to be here to meet you folks. This is my first participation in Emeriti Network meeting. I prepared a few slides, if you don't mind. I know people get tired of PowerPoint, but this will shorten my address. Some of the things I want to say, I've just put on the slides. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen.
Yeah, you can share.
Can you see my
Yes.
screen now? Okay, I'll just bring the PowerPoint up to... organization that I'm now of. This organization is 30 years old. It's 30 years old. It was formed in 1994, but I've been associated with it for only a year and a half. My local retiree association at my university, the University of Alberta in Edmonton, the president of that association appointed me to be a board member of CURAC. So I joined CURAC a year and a half ago, became the secretary, and 6 months ago I became the president. So on this discussion of the silver economy, I started off by first Googling silver economy in Canada because I was unfamiliar with the term. And I found a number of entries, and they were almost all about silver mining. So in Canada, the silver economy has to do with the metal, and there's virtually nothing about the hair color. So I believe I checked, and I believe the phrase silver economy was developed in Japan, and it's been heavily adopted in Europe. I actually looked at the EU report on the silver economy, which was published 2 years ago. And it had great detail, but nothing like that has occurred in Canada. And I checked the University of Alberta library catalog. There was also nothing. And Google Scholar had a little bit. It's almost all European. Anyway, this organization, Canadian Association, the Canadian University Retiree Association of Canada, it has official purposes because it's registered as an official corporation in Canada. These are its purposes. Purpose number one, coordinate activities, promote communication among the member associations, that's retiree associations, at, 40 such associations are now members of CURAC. And promoting communication, actually tomorrow, Carolyn Lenavanek, who should be in this session but has been delayed, she and a close colleague at the University of Calgary are putting on a webinar which will take place tomorrow, and members of the 40 retiree associations which belong to CURAC will take part in that webinar and share experiences and successes and goals. And basically they will be learning from each other. Purpose two, share information about their activities. Well, a few days ago, CURAC published an online newsletter which shared information that is supplied to us by the 40 member associations about what they've been doing. They picked items that they thought would be of interest elsewhere. Provide mutual assistance. We provide contact information for all of the 40 members, and they can get it from our website and get in touch with each other. And finally, here's something for David Zittner, who's in this call, to speak publicly on issues of concern to the over 20,000 individual members of our 40 institutional members. The number is now actually over 24,000. This statement of purpose is a few years old. Anyway, CURAC has one committee. It's a healthcare policy committee chaired by David Zittner, and it focuses on healthcare mainly, also on things such as intergenerational learning. And By the way, David is a retired medical doctor. We have corporate affinity partners. These are corporations which supply services which are of interest to our 24,000 members. And the partnerships result in our members getting special deals, special discounts. And in return, the corporations give a payment that goes to CURAC, which passes on half of it to the local retiree associations. So it's a way of providing services to our many members, and at the same time helping to fund CURAC and the retiree associations. We get together in person only once a year because CURAC is essentially a virtual association. It operates by email and now by Zoom conferences such as this one. But once a year, we do get together for a conference and an annual general meeting. The next one will be in May in the city of Montreal, hosted by McGill University, which is one of the top 100 universities in the world. I'm not sure exactly where it places. This is the reason why CURAC is essentially a virtual organization. It operates through technologies because it's in Canada, and Canada is big-ish. For example, the conference next year, I hope you can see my cursor. Can you see I'm circling Montreal? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where the conference is going to be next May. Now I'm circling Edmonton, which is much further west. It's where I live. And if I am going to fly to Montreal, it'll be almost 3,000 kilometers. If I were to drive, and I have no intention of doing that, it's 3,600 and some kilometers. I have driven that highway a couple of times in my life. I don't want to drive it anymore. It is long. Next year, we hope to have our conference in St. John's, which is out here on the east in the Atlantic. It is the most easterly point in North America. And so if that association hosts the meeting next year, people in Victoria, where we have a member out on the West Coast, this will be their journey. If they fly, it'll be over 5,000 kilometers. If they were to drive, they would have 2 ferry rides and a total of over 7,000 kilometers to drive. That would take a while. So that has some implications for CURAC, the way it operates. My field is actually, my academic field is higher education, particularly distance education. And back in the 1990s, we used to teach courses using entirely text-based media, such as email and listservs and discussion boards using text only. In the 90s, we switched to a predecessor of Zoom, a different source of video conferencing. My students thought the courses were so much better because they could see me and they could see each other. It made a great difference just to have visual contact, even on the internet. However, I've studied this issue of the different levels of association and contact through different media. Face-to-face is still the best. People feel the most sense of community face-to-face, which they simply can't feel even in a Zoom conference. Now, in the commentary on the silver economy in Canada, it never uses that term, but it discusses the aspect of older people becoming a larger and larger proportion of the population. And I just was looking at one of the higher education blogs, very well done, very well read. And the originator of this blog, Alex Usher, was talking about elderly people in our society and its effect on higher education. So he picked up a theme which you see all over the place, that older people are in fact a drag on the economy. So he in fact titled his blog posting, "Eating the Future." That is, this is the amount the government of Canada is spending on support for older people. This is not the result of inflation. These are constant 2023 dollars. The amount from 2007 to projected for 2027, it is almost doubled. And it is a lot of money. And these are just pensions paid by the government. And of course, he's a higher education person, and he talks about the effect of elderly benefits, its effect on the funding of higher education by the federal government. Now, education in Canada is largely funded by the provinces, but the federal government does provide some funding. So this graph compares the two, and the top of the graph is again that rise in funding for elderly, the support of elderly people, and the bottom is the support for higher education, which is almost flat compared to the top of the graph, where that amount virtually doubles over this period of time. So he's implying, and I've put it in red, he's titled this blog again, "Eating the Future." He says, we are spending so much money on elderly people that this is limiting post-secondary education, and which damages the future of the country, because post-secondary education will drive productivity in the future. So, and this is one particular thing which was published just a few days ago. And I picked it up because, higher education is my field. But others have mentioned in different contexts the effect of this demographic change, the shift to a larger and larger proportion of older people in the economy. Now, I should mention there was some discussion about compulsory retirement. It used to be the case in Canada that university professors and most other people, in fact, would be required to retire at age 65. That retirement age was abolished a couple of decades ago. And so you have people like my older brother, who is 87, who is supposedly retired from his university, but he's still teaching courses. They pay him now by the course. And he still has graduate students at age 87. And he's hoping that the last of his graduate students will finish their dissertations this coming year. Anyway, so that's one way in which older people can continue to contribute to the society. But I'm going to discuss another one, and this is actually David Zittner's area, about how CURAC, and particularly its member associations, which are based on individual universities, can support the mental health among older people, which will reduce the amount of healthcare that older people require. So, as we all know, academics form horizontal communities while they're still active in their disciplines. And they're based on their disciplines, so not their locations. So, for example, a sociology professor at my university probably has a sort of community with sociology professors across the country at different universities and around the world. So when they retire and move back from activities in sociology, they lose that community. But before this professor retires, she probably doesn't even know the geology professor that has an office in her same building. The function of the retiree associations formed at individual institutions is to create a vertical place-based community. So now I'm a member of the association at my university. I'm getting to know people from different disciplines, but who were at this university that I never would have met when I was active and basically functioning within my horizontal community of higher education specialists across the country and around the world. So these retiree associations help to combat our depression, feelings of isolation that are often felt by people who've left their workplaces and essentially exited their community. So CURAC supports these institution-based retiree associations, helps them by giving them opportunities to learn from each other. So that's how, in one way, CURAC supports this so-called silver economy in Canada, though it's never called that. Oh, Caroline, I'm glad you've joined us. I mentioned you a while ago about the good work you're doing and the webinar you're putting on tomorrow. So that's it for me. I will stop sharing. So back to you, Joze.
Yeah, Professor Dreyer, it's your turn now.
My turn. Okay. So, Alexander, I want to share a screen also. So I'm going to try and do
you have a possibility. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I'm working with the dual screens, so I'll just see how this works. So
just go to the arrow down.
You're supposed to be seeing a slide, basically, using a project management methodology. Is that there?
Nope.
Okay,
you didn't accept the share. So basically,
well, I'm pressing the share.
Yeah, and then you have, when you press the share, when it's open the dialogue, you have to choose the screen you would like to share.
Oh yeah, okay, right. Yeah, it's saying desktop 2. Yeah, all right. So
now something is happening. Now we have using a project management methodology to make Outback and so on and so on.
Okay. Well, that's the announced talk. I'm just trying to find my mouse now. Look, I think that we're all different to a great degree, but we do have things in common. Obviously, the one thing in common is that we're retired, well, sort of. The other thing that we've got in common, or what I and the Canadians have in common, is a lot of space. I love that country, Canada, and all the space you've got there. And I particularly love the map that Walter put up. Wow, I wouldn't be flying, I'd be driving. All right, so look, I'm an IT type or informatics type, so I know a little bit about technology. and I'm applying it in my retirement to have fun, basically. So that's what I do, and I love travelling in the outback. So where is the outback? Well, if you can see my cursor, it's pretty much where I'm drawing now, where there are, well, no roads, or not many roads. So maybe here is in the outback, and here very definitely, and maybe over here and so on. All right, like Canada, Australia is also a big country. And in a lot of these places, the outback, shall we say, there are no roads. Well, maybe there are. They call them highways. The Gun Barrel Highway, that's a famous one. You may have heard about that. And the Anne Bedell Highway. And this here is the Anne Bedell Highway. It's an outback track. And this here is the Connie Sue Highway. Len Bedell was a surveyor who was instrumental in making the tracks to monitor the rockets fired from Woomera Woomera is about here in South Australia, in a direct line up to Broome. And that's why all these roads have been created. He named these roads after his children. Connie Sue was one, and this is the Connie Sue, or part of the Connie Sue Highway. Here are all the roads that he pretty much made, this network of roads around here. One of the ones with the arrowheads is one of my tracks. So the Gun Barrel Road Construction Party, as he called his team. So there's a bit of history involved there, and the motivation could be to follow in the steps of Len Bedell, but that's not the only thing. I just love it out there in the bush. So if we want to do a travel exercise, you've got to get a lot of stuff together. So I found it very useful to have this project management approach. And it's hard to know where to start, but obviously you have to start with an idea, and then maybe the idea is mapped out into a bit of a plan. Can you see this one here? Is my voice being heard, or?
No, it's we can see and we can hear.
We hear you just fine.
You can hear as well, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can see and hear.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. So in this one here, we can see that the data. This is 5,500 kilometres, and the average speed was 63. So Perth to Kalgoorlie and up to Laverton, you can go pretty fast there, 110, or maybe a little bit quicker even. Occasionally, I think I might have passed a vehicle and had to go up a bit faster. But by and large, when you get onto these roads here, all of this, you're very limited in speed. Sometimes it's 4 or 5 kilometres an hour walking. Other times it's 20, excuse me. All right. So this is what the project is called the RR Trip May 2024. And now I want to share with you the sort of expected track conditions. You've got to know about this, otherwise you can't plan to go. So what happens if you're coming along a track and you're faced with this? This could be 1.5, 2 metres deep here. This is a washout. Well, unless you have a vehicle that can go around it safely, then you can't actually think about going there, even though there are tracks. This one here, you have to go across these creek beds, and it's a bit hard to see here, but if you draw a line along here and this line here, that could be more than 10 degrees. And if you want to know what 10 degrees is in the roads, just follow the road racers. When they're going up a slope of 10 degrees, they're working very hard. Other conditions, these are what we call corrugations. They are punishing. It's almost impossible to know what to do with those, but everybody has their own approach, and my approach is I have to go over those as quick as possible. If 80 kilometres an hour is possible, then I will. And you get a really good bum massage. And this one here in the bottom right, this is where the track is very overgrown. It's obviously been wet there, and there's good growth but you've got to be able to proceed. Now, obviously, things are going to get knocked about. Mirrors, this is the antenna. So you can't be too precious about your vehicle. There'll be scratches for sure. Now, you're also faced with rocks and possible tyre damage. This one here, well, many of you come from cold countries, so you might think this is snow. This is actually salt. So there are many salt lakes, and they're treacherous unless the area where the track is, the vehicles go, unless that's compacted. So you have to assess that. And then bottom left here, we see that this is a nice track. Nothing much can go wrong there. This, you're not always on your own. This is a big convoy of heavy machines that are guided by police vehicles and escort trucks and all sorts of things, and you've got to get right off the road. You can't be driving when these things are coming along. So you might have to wait for half an hour while this convoy goes past. Right, so given the above conditions, one can then, following the project management steps, one can refine the route map, develop a timeline, check fuel consumption and refueling options, prepare escape routes in case things go wrong. That's really important. So in that sense, it's very good to have a plan, even though you may deviate from it, because it acts as a baseline. Now, some of the resources, well, you need a vehicle as transport, obviously fuel, water, food, medical, communications. Part of my medical kit is an external automatic external defibrillator. And these days I have changed from the satellite telephone to a Starlink. Starlink have a mini version now, so that one gives good reception anywhere, pretty much. You have to worry about accommodation because these trips aren't just for 1 or 2 days, they're for weeks or months, a couple of months maybe. Obviously, you have to be able to navigate and map. If things go wrong with the vehicle, you need parts, tools, you need recovery equipment in case you get stuck, bogged, you need winch, bog tracks, all sorts of things. You've got to make provision for payment. Not all places take plastic. You might have to have cash. And then with all these things, this is just a sample, there's got to be knowledge and experience of using all this stuff. Actually, in my vehicle, 700 kilograms of stuff is just all for safety and recovery. It's hardly ever used because I do the planning thoroughly. But stuff goes wrong. So weather conditions, you don't have full control over that. I mean, you can select the time, but if you're confronted with this, then what do you do? Well, this one we walked through and decided it's okay, we're not going to get bogged. I don't like playing in mud. I don't mind working in sand and jacking and winching and things like that. Having gone through that though, in the top right corner, we come to this ford. It's the same river, but this is the major branch of it. There had been a big weather event. I walked about 25% of this and the water was 200 millimetres deep and it was nearly pushing me off. I don't know how deep it is in the middle, but the point is, if you get washed off, I don't think there's any recovery. It's not a good scenario. So you wouldn't do that. We decided to backtrack and so if you look at the bottom right, this picture here is about there, and we wanted to go to a little way in there. So we then had to backtrack and try to go around. In the meantime, a cyclone formed. So that chased us out. So weather conditions and the effects of that are extremely important to take into account. If we now look at the risks, well, you can see what's happening here. This is the tyre. It's staked. I mean, that tyre is absolutely buggered. It's stuffed. You wouldn't throw it away completely because you might have to fill it up with Spinifex if you've got no other way of doing it, just stuff it with something. But that tyre is wrecked. This one here, this here is a burnt out vehicle, obviously. So the question is, how does it get burnt out? Well, the Spinifex, this tall Spinifex, grows on the tracks. And if you're driving across it, it catches up at the front and underneath. Unless you stop and clear it, particularly with a petrol vehicle, where there's hot exhaust, this will catch fire. Many vehicles are lost like that. And this poor soul, this is what we call a road train. This one is traveling up there to a mine to get filled up with the iron ore and then gets taken to the port. It's a smallish mine, so they're using road trains rather than railway trains. But this guy was stuck there at the time of the cyclone that we saw in a previous version. He couldn't go forward. The track was closed. He couldn't turn around as it's far too long. He didn't have, the only communication he had was a mobile telephone, no signal, no accommodation. Now, are all these things accidents? No, they're errors. They're errors that people make. This is my stupidity. This is the stupidity of the people that didn't bother to check the Spinifex build-up. And this is the stupidity of the driver and or his company that didn't make provision for not being able to continue. So planning can help avoid all these things, or at least ameliorate. Obviously, you learn from this sort of thing. I don't know whether these people and the truckie learned from their little experiences. So why do we do all these things? So that's the project objectives. Well, this one here on the left is a desert oak. When you have a big grove of those, maybe even more than you've got here, and the wind is blowing through, it's magic. It's just absolutely magic. The sound, the serenity is terrific. And look at this on the right. This you can swim in this. This is called Pool 1 of Desert Queen Baths. It's very remote. No one else was there. Absolutely fantastic to be able to visit those sorts of places. And maybe you can have a quack with the ducks. So the project management methodology works for me. I've adopted 3 elements that I call phases: plan, execute and evaluate, document and publish. I guess in this talk, it's really the documenting or the publishing actually, but there's evaluation that goes on each time I review my materials. And look, I have a great time. I'm not concerned about much to do with what I've lost from my university job. The one thing I do miss, I have to say though, is access to the bibliographic databases. I do miss that, and that's very hard to organise as a private individual. All right, folks, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Heinz.
How do I unshare it?
I did it. I stopped the sharing.
Oh, you did. All right,
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Alexander, it's your turn now.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, this is the first time I'm having the role, except of being a technical guy. So my name is Alexander Erceg, and I will try not to be too long. I will talk about the silver economy and the role of information technology in supporting its development. I have been doing several studies about the silver entrepreneurship and how it goes and how it is in part of the silver economy. And today I will try to give something about the role of information technology, because today the technology is what is around us, and it can really give us a lot of benefits, as we can saw from the previous presentation. Even the project management model, this is something I would never dream that it can be used for this kind of activity. Although, to be honest, I used the project management when I was organizing my wedding some 15, 20 years ago. So the silver economy encompasses economic activities which are designed to address the needs of aging populations, and typically those aged 50 and above. If we are looking, and since I'm still trying to do the research, there are several age limits or age positions for which the people are considering what is the aging. Some are saying 15 and above, some are saying 60, 65, 70. I think that as also Boris at the beginning said, that the people are now living up to, he said, early 90s. So I think that this number is going to be growing up more and more. We are aware that demographics are shifting toward the older population in many countries, and especially we are noticing that in Europe. The Croatia now is almost, I think it's 1-to-1, one young, one older. And this sector, as a silver economy, is becoming the essential for driving economic growth and addressing the unique demands of older population. Why? Because as when we were chatting before the start of the meeting, we said that most of countries, especially Croatia, we see the older people as a cost. We don't see them as a potential for driving a new and economic growth. The silver economy offers healthcare, housing, social services, and leisure opportunities. I am living on the river bank in Osijek. We have a river Drava, which connects us to lots of cities. And what we are having now is we have lots of influx or incoming, lots of incoming of tourism using the river cruises. And almost all the tourists which are coming on those river cruises are older people. They are 70 plus, 80 plus, and so many tourists are giving our local economy a boost, because when they come off the boat and then they go around the city, they buy souvenirs, they go to the lunch, they go to the cafes and stuff. And this is also, and now the people also are organizing the special programs for them. So this is also giving some of the tourist agencies recognize this as a potential for their earning. Since we are not the seaside, we don't have lots of sun, beaches, and the sea to offer. We have the river, but with this cruisers, we have our tourist agencies are able to offer a new product, which is intended for the older generations. However, the silver economy also poses challenges, such as need for accessibility, healthcare resources, and social inclusion. When we are leveraging the modern information technology, it is critical to overcome these challenges and to drive the growth of crucial economic sector. Where we can see the relevance of the IT in silver economy, especially in several areas, which are healthcare and wellness. While advanced IT solutions are transforming the healthcare for adults, for older people. Telemedicine, remote monitoring, wearable health devices allow older people to access healthcare services from their homes, reducing the needs for hospital visits and enabling them their self-management of chronic conditions. These technologies are providing essential health data to medical providers in real time, while improving the healthcare outcomes and reducing the healthcare costs. And we can see this as a booming IT industry, because, as I said, this is the new sector for the IT industry. Whoever will give the good startup in this area is going to be developing their products in the future. Assistive technologies, innovations in smart home devices, which we are already aware of, the Internet of Things, the AI-driven virtual assistants, empower older people to live independently, safely, and comfortably. These assistive technologies, from automated lighting system to smart fall detectors, address standard safety and mobility challenges, reassuring users and caregivers. Next one is the social connectivity. While the digital platforms, which are tailored to the older people, can help them stay connected with family, friends, and communities. Okay, the Zoom is doing that as well, especially this Professor Emeriti network is helping us to stay connected on the digital platforms. These tools are essential in combating social isolation, which is a growing concern among the older people. By fostering this social engagement, these platforms are supporting mental and emotional well-being while reducing risks associated with loneliness and depression. It is also important to include in this sector and the next one, which is financial technology, it is important to include the education for the older people. While we are witnessing many scams with the older people, which are being called or contacted via the mobile phones or via the emails or online, and basically the people are scamming them and taking them money by saying that they have some issues, that they need to fix their computers and stuff. So the need here is to educate, and this can be associated with the education and lifelong learning, while the digital learning platforms are designed for the older adults to provide opportunities for upskilling and staying engaged, allowing older people to remain active in the workforce and engage them in lifelong learning. These tools can keep their mind active, enhancing cognitive health and promoting well-being. This is also the thing that currently in Croatia, we are noticing that many people who are retired are still they want to keep on working. Our laws are allowing them to work up to 4 hours per day. Some of them are working because they have to, unfortunately, due to the financial situation. But some of them are doing because they want to. We have a great example of the Centaur Club, which is basically senior entrepreneurs who are now retired are being used, or they're used, maybe it's not a good, are being consultants to the startup companies, because with their knowledge, because with their experience, they can help new companies in getting on the surviving the first rough years. And this Centaur Club is being recognized all over the Croatia, and we are now having more and more seniors who are being as consultants, and all those older people are really IT knowledgeable, and they can help the younger generations. Last but not least is the financial technology, which the technology has. We are now seeing revolutionized financial services for the older people, simplifying pensions, investments, and everyday banking management. User-friendly, secure applications can help older people maintain their financial independence, making services more accessible and reducing risks which are associated with cognitive decline. But as I said before, we have to take care that the older people are being educated about the financial technology, use of the digital platforms online, which can, in order not to prevent the potential scams and thefts. Innovative technologies like artificial intelligence, which are now being almost everywhere around us, robotics and virtual reality, are being also tailored to address the specific needs of older people. For example, AI applications offer personalized healthcare recommendations. Companion robots can help the reducing loneliness, and VR applications can create engaging mental and physical rehabilitation environments. To maximize the benefits of IT, it is essential to bridge the digital divide. Therefore, we need to have programs which are focused on digital inclusion and literacy, of which can enable older people to comfortably and confidently use the digital tools while enhancing their independence. Additionally, devices and applications which are designed with user-friendly interfaces, such as larger fonts, voice commands, and simplified navigation, can make the technology accessible to those who may be less familiar with them and with how to use them. Of course, all these new tools and new sectors in which IT can boost the silver economy can foster the job creation and market expansion. It can enable companies to develop specialized products and services, generating the new economic opportunities. Therefore, let's say the companies need to recognize what the older people need, and not to think that they know what they need. So basically, as everywhere, they need to make a market research. Technology that supports the caregivers and healthcare providers also increase the efficiency in caregiving, meeting the rising demands of an aging population, and therefore reducing strain on healthcare system. And this is something that we are really witnessing in Croatia. So sometimes when you go to the public healthcare system and you need some, I don't know, specialty checkup, MRI, CT, and then you get your appointment for in next 8 months. So yeah, in 8 months you are ready to have the checkup. Of course, then as everywhere, at least here in our region, you then call someone who knows, and miraculously tomorrow you are up for your checkup. Or you go to the private healthcare where the same position, same doctor who works in the public hospital works there. But I will not talk about how our healthcare is organized. Basically, to conclude, the integration of IT within the silver economy is transforming how we support all the people, driving economic growth and fostering social inclusion. By leveraging the latest technological advancements, the silver economy can address the needs of aging population while building a more inclusive and resilient society. So thank you very much. This was all from my side. So I am open to any questions you might have.
Alexander, thank you very much. Before we give the word to Boris, he will manage the discussion. Let me invite Professor Arher. Walter, you said you will have to leave to prepare for another meeting. Please suggest any comments, suggestions, proposals based on what was presented here today. You first, please.
Are you asking me?
David, I think he was asking me to say something before I leave, which I will do soon.
Yeah.
I am really impressed by the discussion of the use of technology for various purposes, and I have been involved with that throughout my career. Yes, it can certainly support older people, and older people, not all of us, not all older people are familiar with the use of technology. I have some older friends and relatives who don't even have email accounts. So yes, it is something that will support the silver economy, as you Europeans call it, but it needs a bit of work. And again, I would repeat what I said in my own presentation. Face-to-face is best if you can manage it. If you can't, well, Zoom is a big improvement on strictly email, and email is a big improvement on writing letters and taking them to the post office. So that's about all I have to say. And yes, I'm going to leave. CURAC has a board meeting starting in half an hour. Carol, Lynn, and David will join me, but they don't have to, well, maybe they don't have to make coffee and stuff like that. So, thank you for thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, I need to leave as well, and is it okay? Can I just quickly share a little bit? So actually, and I'm glad Walter that you're still on, because I think that what we are planning for February 12th for this gathering directly follows your remarks, because our title is introducing the age inclusivity domains of higher education, the potential for increased engagement of emeriti and retired faculty and staff. And we really, and I've got, colleagues from Canada as well. Michelle Porter is from the University of Manitoba, along with colleagues that we have from the States that will be sharing their remarks there. And I do feel that the charts that you showed, really there was we have to address ageism. And I think that there was a lot in there, and I could really I look forward. I hope you're able to attend on February 12th as well, because I think that there's more to share there. And I also then wanted to also say that this meeting that Joze mentioned, the Gerontological Society of America, they don't realize, at this point, everything is available free, which is this is the opportunity. I mean, it's like this is a membership organization, but everything that they have online is available. And here I'm showing you what I hope you just see the screen, GSA Enrich. There are webinars, there are online events and programming, podcasts. And then my area that I've been working on is age inclusivity in higher education. A lot of resources there that's available to you by just going to gsaenrich.geron.org, and Joze has shared this information. And I think that this is, when you hear, okay, Gerontological Society of America, well, even though we are an organization about aging, we have 4 different sections. We have health sciences, we have behavioral social sciences, social research, planning and practice, the policy, and whatever the 4th is that is not coming to my mind right now. But I just feel that because you're coming from all disciplines, you'll still find something of interest, there. So with that, I'm sorry that I have to sign off, but it's been great sharing this space with you, and I look forward to our continued discussions. Bye-bye.
Now, Boris, please take it over and engage as many as possible of those who are attending this meeting to share the ideas about possible actions and collaboration.
Thank you, Jože. I do believe that we had a good and rich debate, and I'm sure there are questions and positions that you wish to maybe share within our group. And I invite, of course, anyone. Has Mr. Zidner also wanted to discuss before? Maybe you can start, please.
So could I ask Alexander a question, please?
Yeah.
So project management has been a big part of my academic career, using that and so on. In fact, I was teaching information systems project management, and I had a class of students, graduate students, and I figured out that the difficulty was they couldn't get in their mind that analysis comes before design, comes before programming. Couldn't even do those basics. And this is because we weren't enforcing the prerequisites and so on and so forth. So I said, look, bugger it. The project is going to be a wedding. Weddings. Sri Lankan students, and I had Indian students and Hong Kong students. They had a ball. They did it terrific. I even got a prize from the dean, cross-cultural teaching award or something like that. So Alexander, that sparked using project management for your wedding. So the question is, did you model your bride as a resource or a person or a stakeholder?
She was the boss. She was the boss, and I was just doing the work.
Wonderful.
That's the recipe for a happy marriage. Excellent. Well, Mr. Zidner, please. Please activate.
The comment about planning, because several years ago I did the Tongariro crossing in New Zealand and almost died when I faced an unexpected squall. It's a hike that goes from a tropical rainforest up into an alpine environment. But I didn't know enough to know even that I had to plan and look into what the risks were. But that's a separate story. In terms of healthcare and health IT, it's not clear that when people have greater access to feedback about their health and access to clinicians, that they get more useful advice or just more advice. And I don't think people have really been appropriate in terms of measuring the results of some of what we claim are innovations. In terms of health IT, I know my colleagues who are still working in clinical medicine claim that the systems have been so poorly designed that it decreases the amount of time that they have for patient care. We don't track results. Carolyn knows that our healthcare policy committee has been asking government to track the fate of people who get certain interventions, including flu shots, to show that either people are much better off if they get them or worse off, or it doesn't make a difference. And you can't get governments to use the vast trove of data that they have to do something with it. In terms of seniors costing community something, I don't know whether I tried to find something about tax payments by age group, and I suspect that older people may actually overall pay more than they receive, but I don't know. The one piece that I am conscious of is that as older people have developed those older people have developed adequate financial assets, generate huge returns on their financial assets without working. Young people who are working, I'm not saying they're not deserved, but young people who are working find it very difficult because capital generates much more than labor. And I'm not sure whether there is a solution, because at the same time, there are a large number of older people, including retired faculty, who are almost on the line of being impoverished. When we talk about the silver economy, I think there are many silver economies, because within the older group, there's so many socioeconomic demographics, so many demographics with regard to intellectual sophistication and appreciation for the world around us. Some people need to have programs that are specially designed for seniors. Others may prefer to be more involved in the general activity of communities. I think one thing that could be exciting is if seniors had some influence on government policies, but we may not have enough consistencies of opinion to do that effectively. I haven't looked at the American election and what the polling says about voters by age, but I suspect that seniors voted, a higher proportion of seniors may have voted for Trump than younger people. I'm going to look into it. And then
I'm not.
What?
I said I'm not.
Going to look into whether more seniors voted for him, because that says something about whether seniors can advocate in their own interest. Anyway, those are my thoughts for what they're worth.
Thank you. You have covered
If I
quite a few
might,
issues. Mr. Dre wanted to comment.
So David brings up an important point. It's to do with finances, really. So in our world today, I think there's just far too much greed. Everybody seems to be rushing around trying to get the biggest advantage in the shortest time and doing all sorts of things. I mean, to have a futures market, I mean, that is such a bloody nonsense. To try and make money out of betting on what's going to happen in the future. We shouldn't be doing that. If I was the boss of the world or America or whatever it was, I would make one rule that says, look, 2 times per year, you can have the financial information. You can have it on the 30th of June and on the 31st of December. And in the meantime, you have to interpolate. So the thing is that if you don't have money, you can't actually do much. That's true. And I feel very sad for people that haven't organised their lives so that in retirement they've got a couple of bob to rub together, as we say. So you do need that, absolutely. But you don't have to be very sophisticated about it. Look, there's just 3 things that are important about money. Number 1 is you've got to have some. Number 2 is you've got to keep some in reserve. And number 3, understand that when you've done those 2 things, there's plenty of people that want to take it all from you. And if you understand those 3 things, you're gonna be okay.
But
look, yeah.
I think there's a 4th thing people have to know, that money essentially works for people. When you talk about futures market, that's something that helps organizations, countries, communities maintain stable pricing, so that when the purpose of futures market are to allow farmers to plan ahead and say they'll get a particular price for a crop, even if the crop may not be valuable at the time it's delivered. But I think you're right that there's far too many people who are playing in the futures, in the financial market, as a form of income generation without adding anything to communities. We know somebody who's an elite engineer who now is doing financial modeling and making far more than he would earn if he actually created goods and services. And I don't know what communities can do about that. But at the same time, even academics, most academics don't really understand how financial markets work. In healthcare, the ideas about risk, we're doing a project with a financial organization comparing ideas in risk management in health and in wealth. And the ideas are the same. How you predict outcomes, how you measure outcomes, what determines whether you're likely to be successful. But most people shouldn't have to learn about that. And young kids should be able to do something that's productive and enjoyable, not think they're going to spend their life making a fortune manipulating symbols.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. One thing I have never seen is for any country, the calculation of the money being paid into pension funds and the money paid out with pensions. And probably this is not to be interpreted in other ways than, in fact, governments just don't have the courage to show these figures to the public. Because I have the feeling that we are getting less than we should. And of course, we are getting not a direct proportion to what we have paid, but actually according to the budgetary situation of a country and of a government. So we are not in a fair position, I would say.
We did a piece with the head of one of the central banks. And it's clear if you look at what people contribute to Canada Pension Plan, and we only did it for people who contributed at the highest level. And if you look at the amount that they received in return, it was about a third of what they would have received had they invested it in their own in just an index fund that kept track with the market.
Yeah.
But most people aren't. Then you have many people who don't realize they have to save and invest. So part of it is meant to protect those people, I guess.
Yeah. So
one thing is that we expect everyone to be ready and capable of investing. and playing on the financial markets. Instead of making sure you have referred that this the figures have been calculated for the upper third maybe or so. The question is quite different, certainly, for the lower and for the middle group of pensioners. I mean, in the relationship, what was paid and what is being received. But I think Mr. Gray wanted to...
Yeah, so Boris and colleagues generally, you know, I mean, Australia is a pretty small country and doesn't have much to do and say in the world and so on. But there are some things that Australia does really well, I feel. And I think that the pension system, the superannuation arrangements in Australia, I think it was Paul Keating back in the mid-90s that put this in plan. He was a prime minister on the Labor side, or on the left side, if you want to call it that. He had the vision that said, look, in Australia or in a country, you've got to arrange such that the people that are getting older aren't a burden on the rest of society. And as David has said, they're not going to, of their own accord, put money aside. So we will have a government-mandated arrangement called a superannuation scheme that forces people to put money into the super fund, and the employer matches that. Now, this is called the superannuation guarantee rate, and I think it started at 9% of the salary, and then it's at the moment it's 12.5%, and I think it finishes at 15%. Now, in my case, my university was paying, I think, 17% of my salary all the time into the superannuation fund. Now, that's a big boost. And on top of that, it was possible to put more money, that if you had a salary where you didn't need all that money, and I'm quite a frugal person, so I didn't need all the money I was paid. So I topped up my superannuation fund, and there were some tax incentives for that. So by the time I retired, which wasn't intentional, by the way, it was in 2013, by the time I retired, I was in a discussion with the superannuation guy, and he says, Heinz, when are you going to retire? And I said, oh, look, I love my job. I'm having a great job. I go to Europe every year on my research money, and go to the Bled conference and meet lovely people like Joze and all the colleagues in Slovenia, and drive around Croatia, and I have a great time. And he says, yeah, but hang on, because he could see what was in my fund. And he says, but hang on, are you going to be the richest person in the grave? And I thought, oh, okay, what's he saying? Anyway, look, all the stars aligned, everything aligned. There was enough money to have a reasonable life. There were some annoying things that was happening at my university that were really pissing me off, basically. And I said, look, I'm going to retire. It was a big change, a huge big change. And what drove it, I said, look, if I'm going to make such a big change, I'm going to have zero stress in my life. And I've worked that. And if you're struggling with money, you're going to have stress, for sure. So in Australia, I think the superannuation scheme works very well, and maybe other people could take a bit of a look at that. I'm sorry that you don't have it arranged in those countries.
Yep. Mrs. Karanelli, you wanted to join the debate?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, because mine's going to be very, very different. I must say I was very impressed with Croatia when I visited there. But as you know, I'm a dual citizen of Canada and France. I'm a nurse, clinical sociologist also. So when I hear all of this discussion about money, and someone who comes from the bottom of the money barrel originally, I just don't see your points. If anything, you folks who are way high up should be passing on information to the everyday person about how to ask questions and how to give questions. So what I do sometimes is write to my member of parliament or to the Minister of Seniors and say, look, this should change. Here are some suggestions. And believe it or not, sometimes they get heard. I would love to see the economists and the IT folks here start singing that kind of a song. End of note.
Okay, thank you.
Josie is doing an awful lot of work and manages to reach little people. Yeah. Thank you, Josie.
Thank you. What I am doing is looking for smart, action-focused people. And I'm happy I found many of them. I found you being here tonight. My question and consideration is what we together can do. Using the case Caroline mentioned, ask the question. Don't wait, they will do it for you. Ask the question. They are paid to listen to us.
Well, Joze, I've been involved in this group a little bit now. I was brought into it through Doug Vogel, if you remember, maybe a year or so ago. But mainly reading the emails that you send, Joze, and the background information and so on, I've compiled now a bit of a case study that I'm taking to the local. It's called a men's shed. Now, this in the local area is a very well funded arrangement where older people, seniors, men, there are women equivalents as well and so on, but I think it started out to do with machinery, you know, doing carpentry and welding and things like that. So I said to the secretary a while ago, look, I'm involved with this group, Emeriti professors, retired white-collar workers, essentially, or retired knowledge workers, shall we say. Are you interested at all in having some activity going on there? And he reckons this is terrific. So I'm about to meet with him, and I'm going to propose something modelled on what you and Luigi and Alexander and the group have done. So that you're having an effect, Joze. And maybe in half a year, or I don't know when it is, I'll be able to come back here and report what's happened.
Good.
So it's been a very good experience for me and positive, very positive. And I think you're achieving your goals, even though we're so far apart.
That's very important what you're saying. And of course, it underlines that basic principle, which is so often forgotten by people who are criticizing things are not good. And then when you ask them, what do? They say, but you don't really have the chance to change. But that's not true.
No.
Everything is in our hands if we want.
Yes, it's true. Yeah,
that's very good point.
Happy to see this and this agreement and support, and me also congratulating Jože for his initiative and energy and input. Let's inspire and encourage each other, and I'm sure we will be able to succeed and achieve more than we can even imagine. Because this silver economy is a phenomenal potential, and there are many, many things that can be done, not really with that much effort, but of course the initiative must come, and of course the authorities government services must feel that we know what we want, and that we know that they are there for us and not the other way around.
Yeah. I think I have to run to the other meeting. So
well, we have come to the 1855, so practically we have consumed our time. Unless there is anyone who wishes to mention anything or propose. If not, then I'm returning the floor to Jože, and I thank you for the discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all for very good presentations.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent session.
Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Alexander.
Very good session.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Yeah.